How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a game that was recently successfully funded on Fig called Kingdoms and Castles. Now, I had previously recorded my thoughts on this game, but what happened is I forgot to switch my recording program back into 1080p, so I ended up capturing only about half of the overall gameplay that I was talking about, and I just couldn't accept that as a honest first impressions of the game. So we're going to be doing it again. So let's load up a game that I had previously been playing. It's year 152 currently. We're just going to load that up. You might have noticed in the main menu, let's just go back. Never mind. There are not a whole lot of options here. This is a beta, obviously, but there are not a whole lot of options here to begin with. So you can either do a new game, load a game. We're going to load a game. Year 152, let's go. Okay, so here we are. This is my current kingdom, and I thought I would load this to help you get an impression of what the game looks like towards the later stages. So in my case, here we have the keep, basically, in the center, and then we have, for example, the food. We have farms, which produce wheat. We have apple orchards, which produce apples. The windmill in here increases the productivity of the farms surrounding it. Here we have a granary. There are a couple of sizes of granaries. If we look at the build menu, you can see there's a small granary and a large granary. They take different amounts of time to build, obviously, and require different amounts of resources. There's a bakery, which increases the productivity. It turns wheat and charcoal into bread. This is one of many, rough edges to the game. If you take a look at the title bar for this building, I think it should say granary. Instead, it basically just says, oh, we got Vikings invading. We'll take a look at that next. But instead, it has the description for the building in the title bar, and it doesn't fit, as you probably noticed there. And the same applies to other buildings. This is a granary, but it says in the title bar, stores a lot of food. Doesn't particularly make a lot of sense to me. Let's view those invading Vikings, though. So this is one of your primary challengers, are these Vikings. They'll appear on your shores from time to time, and they will attempt to destroy some of your buildings. Now, in the current build of the game, there's only really two different play styles or different difficulty settings. There is the no invasion one, in which no Vikings appear, and then there is the medium setting. So there's going to be a harder setting, but on this medium setting, the Vikings that you get are not very difficult to defeat. Even if you don't have any defenses, they're not going to do that much damage. They're not going to end the game for you. So as you can see, it's a little bit slow. They have unleashed one of their monsters, apparently. It's like a rock golem or something. I'm not exactly sure what it is supposed to be. It's not very Viking-like compared to the others. And then we have this ship. These ships are already sailing away. No idea why. You could say that's AI pathfinding problems because my castle's on the other side of this bridge. I really don't know. But this dude, he's going for it. He's going to attempt to take down one of my towers. And you'll notice a lot of my towers are shooting. So this is sort of the combat. This is like a great introduction to the game because it's focusing on the more action-packed aspects of it. We have a couple of towers shooting at him. We got this little tower here. It's an archer tower. We got a ballista over here. I think that's within range. Oh, you brought down my archer tower. And then we have an archer tower way up there. That's one of the cool aspects to the wall building system in this game is you can actually take the castle and then you can build a castle block. And you're not really limited as to how high you can build the wall. So everything starts out as basically a wall segment, but then you can build them up into towers. So you don't have the tradition. If you're familiar with stuff like Stronghold, you'll have different, oh, he's down. Yeah, so it looks like this Viking invasion failed. They're just skimming across the ground there. Not a whole lot of animation going on. But if you're familiar with games like Stronghold, you might actually appreciate the ability to just build individual wall segments up into towers. It's certainly a unique idea, and probably the most unique idea this game actually brings to the table. So after that exciting introduction to some combat in it, you'll be a little bit disappointed to know that that's basically all the combat the game has. And I really don't know how to put this, but the game lacks sort of any opposition to you. Yes, you do have the Vikings, but as I explained before, they can't end the game for you. They will just destroy a couple of buildings and set your economy back, and their strength seems to max out at around day or year 30, I should say. By that time, you have such a great economy going that they simply can't really damage much of your defenses. As you saw here, they managed to tear down a wall, but in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing. And that's the biggest attack that I've really had so far. So, I don't have that many defenses. I've got a few archer towers, but it's not like I've just gone overboard on it. So on the medium difficulty level, there is just really a lack of sort of military opposition to the player at all. There is no controlled AI. Like if you're familiar with a lot of real-time strategy games, you'll know that the AI generally has an opponent player which will actually set up shop across from you, and then they'll send raids and stuff at you in an attempt to destroy your keep. This game, they never really go after the keep. There's just really no competition, no opposition. And that means that most of the game focuses on the economy. So let's talk a little bit more about the economy. We already saw how food is made, basically. In addition to food, we have things such as foresters. They'll chop down trees. We have quarries, which mine stone. Here's a quarry that mines stone, and then I don't think I have a quarry that mines iron anymore. I had one that mined iron, but I realized I didn't have a use for it. So after you mine iron, you'll see down here in the lower display that there are various different resources. So iron, charcoal, which is used to heat your buildings, your houses, I should say. Then there's the iron, and the iron is turned into tools using the blacksmith. Of course, this building doesn't say blacksmith, as I've mentioned before. There is no, the building name is not in the title bar, instead the description is. And I'm not exactly sure, again, why that decision was made, and it seems to be a little bit short-sighted to me. But yeah, that's the blacksmith, and he makes tools. Unfortunately, I have no idea what the tools are used for. The game never explains it to you. And in addition to this, they're used. So whatever tools do, the peasants are using them for that, but I've never seen them needed as a requirement to build any sort of structure, and they've never mentioned, like if you go into industry here, they've never mentioned exactly what the tools are needed for. It simply says take charcoal and iron and turn it into tools. So you'll see the game is still quite rough around the edges, but we also have a hospital, which is required for events when your peasants get sick. We have a church, which basically keeps the peasants from leaving. This was a mistake I made early on in the game, is I had plenty of popularity. I had my advisors warning me about the peasants despairing, and I should build a church. I thought, well, I got plenty of popularity. It's not going to be a problem. It turned out to be a problem. So I'm not exactly sure how the church works, but you can see there is a radius around it. There is a certain number of people that it can serve. Once again, the game is pretty ambiguous in terms of exactly how many people it does serve. So you can see like base happiness as 3. Master Priest is +2. I have no idea if I have Master Priests working. Is there such a class? Can you train workers for any class? I have no idea. You can also give it a tithe of 10 gold. Now you might think that this is gold you earn, or that you will get this gold if you click the button. No, you're actually paying it, and I'm really not sure what it does when you click that button. It subtracts your gold, obviously, but I don't see any benefit to doing so, unlike, for example, the maypole here, or what do they call it? It's called a town square. See, once again, like I'm saying, it would be really helpful if I was just able to click the building, and then it would tell me exactly what building it was in the title bar instead of giving me a description. You can hold festivals here for 25 gold. It does have a range. I have no idea how important this is, because I've held festivals with this range as it is, and haven't really noticed the downside to it. So I have houses over here, I have houses over here. This case, we have a manor right here. You can tell once again, one of the rough parts of this game, text is not fully inside the text box. So there's a lot of polish that needs to be done. And I keep sort of sidetracking to that. Here's an iron mine that I no longer use. We need wells to provide fire protection, especially important when a dragon attacks. Hopefully we'll see a dragon attack before I wrap this up. Then we have, of course, the market here provides localized access to household goods. If you've played games like probably Anno or Banished, both a couple of popular games, a lot of these concepts will be familiar to you. And that is what I think is the game sort of lacks, is it promises sort of a castle building experience, but what you end up getting is basically a poor man's version of Anno or Banished. Even Banished, which was developed by one person, if I'm not mistaken, had a more solid economy than Kingdoms and Castles currently does. It had more buildings to build. It had more entailed infrastructure. Basically, there were more complex supply chains than Kingdoms and Castles has. And I think that was an incredibly missed opportunity because, sure, it's a little bit of a different flavor here, but the fundamentals are so similar that it's hard for me to excuse the lack of something original besides adding a castle around your entire village. In addition to this, like here we have our tax office, not sure what it's called, once again, descriptions in the title bar instead of the name of the building, but we can adjust our tax rate there. Happiness is in the lower left corner. Our happiness is currently at 60. We had a recent plague apparently, so we might want to adjust our tax rate to 1. Hopefully that'll increase the average happiness. It's trending towards 91. I'm not exactly sure how low the happiness has to fall before your peasants start leaving, but they eventually do. One problem I've also had with this game is in terms of navigating the map, we hold down the left mouse button and click and drag. The problem with this is that's exactly how you select buildings and peasants. So you can basically select every one of these little peasants that are on the ground, and you'll notice this happens a lot. Let's say I want to go ahead and select this ballista. Oops, I accidentally clicked on the peasant there. Let's say I want to select this ballista. Oh, clicked on the peasant again. Let's say I want to select this archer tower. Oh, I clicked on that damn peasant again, didn't I? You can select towers. Towers are definitely more easy to select than buildings, but I've had it a lot of times where I try to click on a building, it brings up a peasant, or it brings up the building behind it. So this could be a little bit more precise. I'm not exactly sure why you need to click on peasants. I'm not exactly sure why peasants need to be clickable at all. They'll say stuff like agriculture grand master is afraid of fire. It doesn't really seem to matter in the grand scheme of things. I have so many peasants. Like, I'm going to pay attention to the wants of each and every one of them? No. So we have grand masters, for example. That it's like a unit type. What does it do? I don't know. When it comes to the buildings, let's say I try to click on the quarry there, clicked on a peasant again. Tell you that happens a lot. Here's our quarry. Now you might recall in Banished, when you had buildings, you had the ability to assign your own specific number of workers to them. Sure, there was a maximum cap, but if you only wanted one worker to work it, no problem. In this game, in Kingdoms and Castles, basically, you have to have the full amount of workers in every single building. So in other words, I build a quarry, it better have 4 workers available to work it. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you won't have any builders. And builders are quite important. They're very critical towards improving and repairing your infrastructure. So instead, you have this tedious amount of micromanagement to make sure that you have enough available idle peasants that you can complete a current construction problem on time. Let's see if I can actually rebuild this. This can only be built atop walls. What? I don't get that. So apparently, this is oh, okay. We have to destroy it. There we go. There was some rubble obstructing the building. Let's rebuild this tower here like that. You'll see now, my idle peasants went from about 11 down to 3. So now idle peasants that were formerly just loitering around are going to come over here and start building a structure. The problem is each structure sort of has its own individual requirements for building it. Like this one, this castle block can hold 0 out of 7. So right now it doesn't have any builders basically. But it depends upon each individual structure. Oh, we just saw a dragon go down. Oh, I missed it. Yeah, the dragon will start things on fire. But getting back to construction, your peasants will come over here and they will try to build it. But the problem is if you don't have any peasants, it's going to take a long time to get anything done. And unlike Banished, where you can actually click on a little menu somewhere and assign peasants to individual jobs to make sure there'll always be builders available, even if there are some empty places that need working, for example, an empty quarry, there will still be a reserve of builders to continue building up your economy. That doesn't exist in this game, and I think it is sorely needed. And it's one of the reasons why I say Kingdoms and Castles, while it has the same sort of economy fundamentals that games like Banished did, it is like fundamentally inferior in its current state. Here we have the city advisors. So these people will pop up from time to time and give you sort of clues as to how your economy is doing. For example, this suggestion here is basically, well, we're running out of granary space. This suggestion here is, well, our peasants are happy, we can tax them more. There are also some important ones that come up, like we're going to be invaded shortly by Vikings. The problem that I see with this is it is certainly a throwback to more old school games where you have to navigate through complex menus to access simple information because they wanted that very visceral feeling of, well, you talking to your advisors. I don't think that's necessary, though, and it's a change. It's a divergence from the current meta that we are experiencing in a lot of games where they want really slick and user-accessible user interfaces. So I don't think it's really necessary to have the player click through there. That it should just be perhaps in this event log. Why not go ahead and in the event log mention something about, well, our granary is full, or our peasants are very happy, we can tax them more. It's just inexplicable to me in that regard. And let's talk about the conclusions then that we can draw from it. You didn't see me build a whole lot here, granted. The building system is pretty straightforward. For example, if you're building castles, it needs to be closest to a road. There is a certain limit as to how close you can build. It works like that. You build a single tile at a time. You can't pull and drag more. Same applies to trees if you want to chop down a whole bunch of trees. In addition to the woodcutters over here, whatever they're called. Like I said, title bar doesn't tell me what they're called. But in addition to that, you can also chop the trees down individually. Nope, you can't drag and select a bunch of trees and choose to chop the lot of them. You have to do it individually. Things like this could be improved. I'm not saying that they're always going to be this way. Obviously, as I've mentioned before, the game is in beta and is hopefully going to change a lot for the better. It has a release date of around, June 2017, late June 2017. So it's going to be in development for hopefully a couple months yet. And hopefully a lot of these, in my opinion, glaring issues will be resolved. I don't have a whole lot of hope, though, for the game becoming more complex. I think this is sort of, they've limited themselves in terms of how big the economy is going to be. Like, you could make the argument that my goals here should be to expand and cover the entire island with my castle, but, why should I bother doing that? There's really no incentive to do it. There are no objectives. There are no victory conditions. I think this is one of the biggest omissions currently. Is I've mentioned before that there is no player-controlled AI that will compete against you, but there are just no victory conditions, period. It doesn't matter what you look at. You could have economic goals. It doesn't exist. There are no military goals. There are no economic goals. It's a very open-ended game, and once you get to about turn 30, like I've said before, you reach this sort of position where you really can't be defeated, and the rest of it is just economy management. And that's okay, usually, if you have some sort of objective to achieve with your economy. Sure, you can try the player sandbox route where the player should inspire themselves, but usually it requires a game that has a lot more player input, where the player can contribute a lot more towards building the game world. Like, you think about games such as Minecraft, where the players can change a ton of stuff in it. That doesn't apply to games like Kingdoms and Castles. This is a game that is quite rigid in terms of what you can actually achieve in it. But yeah, it's looking good. I like the look of it. I like what they're going for here. I just wish it'd focus a little bit more on military, perhaps make the economy bigger. It depends. Like, if you're going for a more economic game, make the economy bigger. Give players a reason to actually build out their economy, because at the moment I don't have one. But what I'd really like to see is more military. Give us another player-controlled AI that will actually build their own castle setup and stuff. Give us the ability to train some troops. I recently took a look at a rather simplistic real-time strategy game called Northgard. It was certainly like a beginner's real-time strategy game. It wasn't very complex. You didn't have tons of different unit types, but at the same time, you had the same sort of eking out a survival and competing against the AI for resources and stuff. And that made the game interesting. To me, this game, I'm not fighting against the environment. I'm not fighting against other AIs. I'm not fighting against events. It's just kind of boring. That's unfortunately my verdict on it. Is at the moment, the current beta of Kingdoms and Castles is interesting, but ultimately boring. There are some good concepts here, like the wall being segmented the way it is. It allows you to sort of build up towers out of certain parts of the wall as you like, but there just needs to be more content here, I think, for me to sort of develop an interest in it that lasts longer than, for example, 4 hours. I've put about 4 hours into it, and that I'm already done, basically. I think I've seen everything there is to see here. And that's a sad thing to say, because I've also played Banished, and Banished had me hooked for much longer than this. And that game came out 5 years ago, and it was developed by a single person. I think that's the important thing to point out. Sure, you could complain when I compare an indie-developed game to a game developed by a multi-million-dollar publisher, but that's not the case. We have good games that are already on the market that do something better, that were developed by fewer people. So, what is your pitch here? I'm afraid I don't understand it. I'm not exactly sure why I would play Kingdoms and Castles over a game like Banished. Just adding a wall around the village really doesn't change the dynamic of the game that much. So yeah, that's Kingdoms and Castles. I originally backed it on Fig because I thought it was promising. I like castles, but I feel a little bit let down. I don't think what I got was what I expected it to be. But hopefully it improves. It's still in beta. I've said it multiple times. Just want to make that point clear. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, as always, and I hope to see you next time.